Welcome to another episode of the Sober Stretch podcast. I hope you're all well, people. I have got a great guest for you today. It's just me, no Craig today, unfortunately, but we will have fun nonetheless. My guest is Olivia from the Sober Coaster Life page on Instagram, a certified life coach, specialising in addiction recovery. You've had your own battles, Olivia, with alcohol and more, I think. We'll get into that. And you had a stint of rehab for 6 months, which we'll go through. And now you help others break free from addiction with therapy-based coaching techniques. So, Olivia, welcome. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm wicked, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yeah, this is a Monday morning we're recording this, and the sun is shining. I took the dog for a walk on the beach. So, yeah, I'm buzzing. I'm all good. What about yourself? How's life treating you?
Life's really good. It's the best it's ever been, to be honest, at the moment. We all have our bad days, but as a whole, yeah, it's pretty plain sailing, touch wood.
But like plain sailing it's such a simple idea, isn't it? But if you've been where we've been, it's bliss, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it really, really is. And just being on that even keel is just, people take it for granted, but it is literally the best feeling after being stuck in addiction for about a decade.
Yeah, rough.
Yeah.
So tell us where you're from and like take us back to the early days.
So I now live in Shropshire, which is a beautiful part of the world, but I grew up in South Staffordshire, which is the Midlands, basically. I mean, I'm sure you can tell by my accent.
Yeah.
Shropshire sounds posh, but I sound like a proper black country girl, so let's get it right. But no, so I had a typical 2.4 family upbringing, mum, dad, me and my sister. But a few bad things happened around when I was about 5, which then led me to have severe OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So from a very young age, I developed mental disorders, and I was up all night moving things and touching things, not understanding as a very small child what was going on.
Yeah.
I had severe paranoia around people coming into my personal space, and that set off basically how my life was going to be mentally. Like from an early age, it was just horrendous. And because I didn't understand what was going on for me, I remember as a child hearing on the news something about schizophrenia. So I convinced myself I've got schizophrenia, because on the outside everyone thought I was this happy, lovely child, but on the inside I was really struggling. And all I heard was 2 personalities type thing. So I was like, I've got schizophrenia as a child. I was petrified. And that kind of like a duck on a pond. On the surface, everything looked fine, but underneath, the feet were going 10 to the dozen. And when I got to about 12, I'd say about 12, it was just like any typical story, really, where drinking down the park and having a spliff here and there. And it shut my mind off. It just shut my mind off. And I was like, this is fantastic. My constant racing thoughts are quiet. And by the time I was 18, I was a full-blown alcoholic. I was drinking from as soon as I woke up in the morning, drinking at sixth form, drinking whenever I possibly could. And I remember I had glandular fever, and I wasn't at sixth form for quite a big period of time. And I got into a very dark place very quickly. And I knew I had a problem really early on. Like, a lot of people say, how do you know you're an alcoholic? But I just knew I wasn't right. And I knew for me, alcohol was the solution, but it very quickly become a massive problem for me. And I walked into my first AA meeting at 18.
Wow.
And I sat there. I got pissed before I went in the Weatherspoons, as you do. And
course.
I sat there and I listened to these people, and it was just a whole typical looking for the differences, not the similarities. And for me, it was always, I'm young, I'm fine. Like, I'm not going to end up like this. It's just a short period of my life. I'll be fine. I'm going to continue what I'm doing. And then my dad left around my 18th, around 18 as well. And that sent me into a spiral with a lot of daddy issues that had gone on from a young age. And it was all very, very confusing, very hard time for me. I didn't know how to deal with these conflicting thoughts that I had towards my father, that I had towards family, and all this sort of stuff. And it ended up, I couldn't deal with it that much. I actually ended up trying to take my own life. And it was all just mental, because nobody could see a problem, and they were like, why is she trying do this? But it was just a cry for help, really.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk to somebody about the way I was feeling, but I couldn't. I felt that once I'd voiced it, it wouldn't make sense to anybody, because it didn't make sense to me. So again, I just carried on drinking, and because of these daddy issues, I ended up getting into a relationship with a bloke that was 30 years older than me. So I'm like 19 at this point, and he's in his nearly 50, and he was my boss at work.
Right.
So I become a sales manager selling car parts, and he was my boss at work. And the next thing I know, I've moved out my mum's house, and I've moved into a house with this 50-year-old bloke. And then the next thing I know, I'm pregnant at the age of 21, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on with my life? It was just crazy. And it was all just that seeking that love and that stability that I didn't get from my dad, I think. And I just sought love in all the wrong places, basically. And he was very coercive, controlling. So I'd already had such a bad identity crisis. All through my teens, I went from a goth to a hippie to this to a that, you know what I mean? And then I'm in this relationship where he's telling me what I'm wearing every single day. He lay out on the bed what I had to wear. He cut me off from my family, cut me off from my friends. And it was just me, this tiny baby, and a bottle of vodka. That's how it was. And I had severe postnatal depression, which I didn't realise until years later that's what it was, because I was just trapped in this house. He didn't allow me to be me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I struggled. I loved my daughter, but I was so dissociated from her because of what was going on internally. And that went on for a few years, and then I managed to break away from my daughter's dad with police involvement and all sorts. That was a nightmare. And moved in on my own into a little two up, two down house, and I felt free. I felt free to do what I wanted. It felt fantastic. And then I discovered cocaine. And then with cocaine, I discovered I could drink even more. And it was like the party. I felt that my party had been cut short by the issues with my dad and then the issues with my daughter's dad. So I made up for it then, and I was just taking a load of drugs and a load of drink, thinking I was enjoying myself because I'd been trapped in that relationship for so long. So I thought to enjoy myself was to do that. And I was in and out of work. I was constantly off sick. I was constantly doing this, doing that. And I was sniffing a hell of a lot of cocaine at that point. I'd got up with a boyfriend where he was doing it heavily and all the time, trying to hide it, trying to be a mom, but with safeguarding and everything, my mom had to intervene and be like, you can't have your daughter, you're fucked. And
did you realize you were fucked?
I did realise I was fucked, but it was easier to deal with the consequences of being fucked than it was to deal with my mindset sober.
Of course, yeah. It really is always the case,
So
isn't it?
so I was like, but then when it was like, you're not going to see your daughter again or you get help. I went into my first rehab at 23 and I had a 3-month stay in there. And again, just listening to all the differences, I was like the youngest in there by about 15 years and I had a detox and I just couldn't deal with my head. I was like a nut job for 3 months. And in the case of my emotions were everywhere. They didn't help me. They didn't teach me how to regulate my emotions. It was just a rehab where they detoxed you, basically stick you in a room full of a load of addicts and then like battle it yourself kind of thing. It wasn't the best. And I left. I ended up walking out of that rehab after about 2.5 months. And then I spent 4 nights on the street smoking crack cocaine and heroin, as you do.
Wow,
It
what a
was mental.
story. So you've not
And
really had any kind of normal, pure, clean youth, really, have you? If you had
no,
those problems with OCD that young, and then the drinking starts at 12, I mean, there is no possibility of maturing at the rate that you should have been. So you're on a hide into nothing come the end of your teen, as you're getting close to 20. And meeting
yeah.
that guy, it's just disaster after disaster, really, isn't it, for you in terms of luck and the way things pan out? Christ. I mean, it's full on, isn't it? It's full on.
And then I remember being in this rehab and listening to all these people and they'd done crack and they'd done heroin. And I was like, I've just done a bit of drinking cocaine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Not focusing on the fact how it was making me feel internally. It was all like a measurement of who's on the hard stuff and who's not kind of thing. And so when I walked out of that treatment centre, I had a lot of money in the bank where all like my sick pay and everything was being put into there, but I was obviously not spending it because I was in a rehab.
Yeah.
And I had no phone. I had my passport. Don't even think I had my bank card. I think I literally just had my passport with me. And I walked out of that rehab with my suitcase in the middle of somewhere I don't know, went into the like closest Nationwide, gave them my ID, gave them my bank details off my head and was like, I want to draw all the money out of that account. And then I went with loads of homeless people on the streets with all this money and just spent it all on crack and heroin. And I just lived on the streets for about 3-4 days. There was missing people's things out of me, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Mom had reported me missing. It was just carnage. And then I kind of come round after this bender thinking, what's going on? What am I doing? And I managed to get back home to my mom. But then that cycle just continued for years of staying at my mum's for a bit, getting my own place, and I can't cope, so I move back in with my mum, only seeing my daughter when I'm around my mum, because I'm not allowed to have her on my own because I'm fucked. And it was torture. It was just the most horrendous few years. All I wanted to be was a good mum, but I just did not have the skills or the maturity, like you said, to even know where to start with it, really.
Mm.
And then I went into like a dry house for a few months and met another bloke, and then it was always like I'd get clean for a bit, think I'm all right, and be like, get into a relationship and like shit had hit the fan because I couldn't
Yeah.
regulate my emotions, let alone be in a relationship and navigate all the things that come into a relationship.
A
So,
sober relationship's hard enough as it is. Do you know what I mean?
oh,
It's really hard to navigate things. personalities and the things that annoy you, even if you're sober. But never mind the anxiety and the tetchiness of addiction. It's not possible to live a fulfilling life like that, is it?
No, and because I had BPD as well, borderline personality disorder, and all this massive fear of abandonment from my childhood, which never got resolved. So it was like constantly pushing people away, testing people, and then when they go, because I've pushed them to the brink, I'm like, oh, I can't cope with it. And then anyway, to cut a long story short, I was having crack cocaine binges constantly, but I was drinking at this point about a litre of vodka a day.
Wow.
And I went into a dry house and I met this guy and we moved in together, and life was really good for a period of time. I'd got sober and I felt really happy, and I had my daughter with me full time. I had my most recent ex, and it was all lovely until literally one day something went, go and get a drink, and I did. And then because I relapsed, he relapsed, even though nobody can make anybody relapse and all that shit. But
Yeah, but
he was just waiting for the excuse. And then that was that. I thought I couldn't get to the lowest point until I got even lower. And us two using together was dangerous, so dangerous. And the amount of crack we used to smoke and just, it was horrendous. And what happened was, one night he was off his head and he was like, I've had enough of this shit. You've got he was trying to get money out of me, so he bundled me in the car and was like, I'm driving you to the cash point and you're emptying your bank account for me. He'd like flipped. He was like gone psychotic, and I was like, what are you on about? No, I'm not. I've got no money, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I'm sick of this life. I'm going to kill us both. And he ran us off the road at 90 miles an hour. We literally, how we got out of it alive, don't know. It was just, we wanted to, well, actually, I've skipped a bit where the argument escalated between us and he ended up beating me up, and then the guilt of that, and then he was like, I can't deal with his life, and then it was like, right, I'm gonna kill us both, and broke my chest bone, and obviously I was covered in bruises. But when I saw the police pictures and that of the car afterwards, the police said, how you've got out of that alive is a goddamn miracle. And then the 6 months that followed after that, I stopped taking drugs then. I just stopped. Didn't take, but I couldn't stop the alcohol. And for 6 months after that, all it was me lying in bed, drinking all day, every day, not speaking to anybody. I just went into a really bad depression. And I just couldn't function. And then I was like, I've had enough of this. And I'd planned on getting fentanyl. I'd wrote all suicide notes. I was like, right, okay, at some point over the next few days, I am going to kill myself, and that'll be it, it'll be over. And by the grace of God and just somewhat a miracle, because I wasn't speaking or answering my phone or nothing, this one day around this time, my phone rang and I actually answered it, and it was a number I didn't recognise or anything.
I never answered
And I
them.
answered it. No, you just don't when you're sober, let alone when you're ignoring the world off your head. You know what I mean? And I answered it, and it was a woman from an old alcohol services that I used to go to, and she went, I've got you a place in rehab. You're going on Wednesday. Get yourself sorted, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what?
Pack your
And I thought,
bags, babe. Yeah.
yeah, literally. It's like, I was like, what? And my mum wasn't speaking to me at this point either. And I called her and I went, Mum, and she was like, what's going on? I went, Mum, I've got a place in rehab. I need your help. I don't know where to start, what to do. I said, I was riddled at this point as well. I couldn't move. I was incontinent. I was vomiting everywhere. I was just fucked. And she come and literally helped me, patch me together and drop me off at this place in Manchester. And little did I know at that time it would be what would change my life forever. Like, it was, everything was at the right time, the right place, the right people, just everything.
Well, it sounded like you
And
deserved that kind of stroke of luck for the stars to align after all those
yeah,
years of that.
everything aligned perfect. And I learnt so much in those 6 months. I was only meant to be there for 3 months, so I ended up staying for 6. And I'm so glad I did the 6. And they taught me DBT and dialectical behavioural therapy, and I had some really intense therapy over shit from my childhood that turned my mindset on everything,
Yeah.
and it got me out of that victim mentality. And I think that was one of the first things that really drew me to your account, was like about victim mentality, because I was stuck in that for so long. And when I come out of that was when I was then able to really work on myself and realise that I'm responsible for my own healing. It's not my dad, it's not Bob from down the road, it's me. Like, they might have done bad against me, but it's me, that how I deal with it is
We
what
can't.
counts.
Yeah, you can't do yourself a continued disservice because of things that have happened so long ago. The first step is to deal with that trauma, and then you can move on, can't you? It's not that
Yeah.
simple, of course, but in the bigger picture. So when you went to when you went to rehab in Manchester, what was it like? How did you avoid the temptations when you came back out? Because it sounds like you were in, out, and every time there was someone or something that triggered it. What was it about that particular stint that lasted? Was it was it simply taking accountability? Do you think it was as deep as that?
It was taking accountability, but it was also what they taught me around the way my brain works and my mindset, and it was all very therapy based. So it was as simple as learning that my head talks utter bullshit to me.
Mm.
So it I developed a self-awareness and a self-understanding where if certain thoughts come into my head, I could challenge it and realise that's bullshit. And then by realising it was bullshit, I didn't drink on them.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was always the emotions that I drank on, there might have been a situation, but because I exasperated it into the worst thing ever in my head, I always drank on it. And I spent 18 months, the first year, yeah, probably about the first year, staying away from relationships, staying away from anything that could put me at risk.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped speaking to everybody and anything that made me feel like I was in. Oh, it wasn't like it. What? Get me words out. Not that they were wrong, but I stopped speaking to people that made me feel that I was doing wrong. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, totally.
It's like that what they were doing weren't necessarily wrong, but I felt by talking anyway. It's another
Yeah,
long
but it's.
story, and
I
it's not
understand what you
sounding
mean, though.
sense.
It's those associations that you can actually recognize when you've got a bit of clarity. Is like, oh, this isn't serving me, and it's not them. They've got their own issues, and maybe they're projecting onto me. But this is my race. This is my life, my story, my gig. I'm fucking doing it my way. And if that
Yeah,
means pushing people, how many people could you have pushed aside or out of the way to help you get better in the previous years? Tons, probably. But
yeah,
it's the appreciation of like this. I think when you want to get sober or clean, to understand the science is critical, isn't it? And I didn't understand that
yeah,
when I got sober. I've since realized that would have helped me a lot. But when you understand what's going on inside your brain and your body is making you drink or use, then you can start to work backwards, can't you? Because
yeah,
I didn't think I was drinking from trauma or bad experiences, but now I've looked back on it and I think, oh well, that happened when I was a teen. Oh, that happened, and obviously I just had a propensity for being an absolute piss artist, and I know that it was kind of chemically disposed in me. It felt like, but the not when you're armed with that kind of scientific knowledge, you can explain shit to yourself, and then you give yourself less of a hard time, don't you? because you don't think it's you. You're not trash talking yourself. You're like, oh right, it's part of it's my fucking whatever amygdala. I don't know. Like this is to blame, and that's really
It
it's
is a
so
yeah.
it's so empowering.
It is. It's ridiculously empowering, and it was a case, and it was that understanding of the way my brain works and that self-awareness. It's that what carried me through, and realizing that I'm not a bad person as well. All the way, because I felt that I was being punished all those years, and that was this was how my life is, and that I've just got to accept that. But what I had to accept was that I haven't got a moral failing. I've just got a problem that I need to learn how to deal with. And I just really broke everything. I stripped everything back, and I worked on my anger. I was full of anger as well, absolutely full to the brim of anger. I could have a conversation with somebody and they could say they like the colour yellow, but my favourite colour is orange, and I'd take that as a personal offence. Like, my anger was, I felt constantly attacked. And I realised no one actually really gives a shit, Olivia. Like, nobody's out to get you. Like, you're out to get yourself. That's the problem. And yeah, and then while I was in there as well, I actually got funding to retrain, because the basically my key worker saw something in me, and she just said, right, I'm going to put you on this course and this course. You can continue it when you're out on the outside, and all this, because I knew I couldn't go back to being a sales manager, working in an environment where everyone drinks and does cocaine and all that sort of stuff. I was like, I can't go back to that sort of lifestyle. And talking bullshit either. That whole workplace is all just talking utter shite, and I was like, I can't go back to that. I knew I wanted to give something back, because I felt like I'd literally been saved by the universe, and I had to give something back into it. And yeah, so I was really lucky in that respect, that I got a lot of funding to get new qualifications. But the most important thing of all this, two most important things, is my relationship with my daughter and being a mother.
Yeah.
And more importantly, my relationship with myself, and how I perceive life now as well. If you told me that I could go for a walk just down the river and get a kick out of it and it get me all excited, I'd say you were mental. Like, I'd say, what is, like, it's boring. What you on about? See things so much differently now, and I've got that excitement for, like, I know it sounds stupid, but I do feel, where I hadn't really had a childhood and a teenage years and all that sort of stuff, I feel like I'd been reborn again. I've gone through lots of those little stages over the past couple of years where I should have gone through as a kid, really. So I have been like a kid in a sweet shop with life, and it's nice that I'm an adult and I can enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And get that zest back. And me and my daughter are absolutely wicked. She's fantastic. She's my little best friend, and I know I'm a good mom today as well. I've got a meeting with the school actually this afternoon, because she's having some problems with bullying and that at school and different things. And you want to see the email I sent last Tuesday to the school? I was like, that is fantastic. Like, things like that, being able to be there for her and deal with stuff, rather than just be like, oh, just let it slide, or just hit them back. You know what I mean? Like, be a responsible person in my responses to her. And yeah, it's just beautiful, and it's just an amazing, I live a very simple life.
Well, simplicity is
But I
what we
love it.
need, isn't it? I think after chaos and carnage, you just start to look for calm at any turn, and that's why a walk by a river is nice. I live 100 yards from the beach, and that's my kind of happy place. And we're kind of sold a lie, aren't we, when we're young, that you can only have fun if you're trying to get inebriated or off your tits. This new drug, this new craze, this new drink. Oh, look at this. This is going to make you so cool. And you don't have. And if you've had that kind of lifestyle, a walk sounds like the dullest thing on earth. And that's just the tragedy of alcohol and drugs, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tricking people to believe that real life isn't beautiful, and the challenges that you face, they're just challenges you have to face. It's tough shit, you know. I found that hard when I was a young adult. I thought, oh God, life's unfair. Why do we have to do all these challenging things? And I didn't realize that doing challenging things and getting through them was how you grow. I didn't realize that because I was too busy hiding and masking. So to actually come out and just get joy from nothing, almost nothing, is massive.
Yeah, it's huge, absolutely huge. And I said this to somebody last week because I actually found out that an old friend of mine, we kind of were seeing each other for a while and all this, but we were really good friends. He died of cancer, of liver cancer last week, and he would have been 6 years clean today. And it really got me thinking, and it got, obviously I felt so sad and whatever for him and his family and friends and whatever, but it was making me think about life. And while we are earthside, do we really want to be putting synthetic chemicals and crap or whatever into our body that takes away the natural enjoyment of life? We're here to experience life in a natural human state, but mankind creates all this shit to pull us away from it. We'll be away from it a long time when we're dead. We're meant to experience emotion. We're meant to experience pain. We're meant to experience all this shit. And I think it was that when I realised that pain doesn't have to turn into suffering,
Mm-hmm.
I really learned to accept my emotions and not run away from them. And I meditated to fuck in the early days as well, and just
Yeah,
sat
same.
through that pain. And even things like, I used to give myself half an hour worry time on an evening. And I know it sounds mad, but in the early days, I'd be like, right, I'm not going to worry about that. I'll worry about that in my worry time. And I'd sit and I'd go through all these worries in my head, and I'd write them down, and I'd go, okay, so is that thought or is that fact? Is that this? Is that? And I'd literally, in the early days, I'd just analyse everything that come into my brain and realise that it's all a load of crap. And that it's the addiction and my mindset. It's just playing tricks on me. It's not who I am as a person. I am not a walking alcoholic. There's so much more to me than that.
Yeah.
And
But that's how you
and
get
I think
defined,
that's,
isn't it? No? That's how people define
yeah,
you, especially if you're in maybe a small place and you are a face that is associated with using or drinking or misbehavior or whatever. You start to think that is the ultimate character. I like what you said earlier about, oh, I didn't realize I realized it wasn't a moral failing. It's not a character flaw. You know,
yeah.
I think so many people beat themselves up in addiction that it's their fault, and the blame game kicks in, and then the perpetual cycle of drinking to soothe that pain continues. But it's just simply not
But
true that it's a character flaw.
yeah,
It's external forces at play. It's temptations. It's advertising. It's trauma. It's so many things. And the second you realize it's not your fault, then you're opening up a whole new world. But when you accept it's not your fault, you then have to take the responsibility moving forward, don't you? Which you've clearly done. I mean, like, your story to get to where you are now is insane, I think, because that's what attracted me to
you,
your account to begin with. There was just this kind of, I don't know, where you live as well. I grew up in Cheshire, so it's not actually far from where you are. I know Shropshire relatively well, school trips and all that.
yeah.
And it's that serenity and peace where you are, and with her, and you were sharing things in your room, and I remember commenting on the beams in one of your rooms in your house. It just looks like
Oh,
you
I've got
found.
loads of them. They're
Oh
everywhere.
yeah,
Look.
amazing. You've gone out your way to put yourself in a peaceful environment. I think, for looking at your account, I don't know if I'm right.
No, 100%. And it's like now, I'm saving up to buy a house with a plot of land because I want chickens and goats and all that type of shit. That's what excites me, like living in just a peaceful and quiet environment. And it's like me and my daughter have house rules, and one of them is no raised voices unless you're singing and laughing. Like, no, I don't like. I tell her off, but I try not to scream at her or ever, like, I try to explain, and I just try to be a lot more calm person, because I wasn't, even when I had little bits of sobriety, I've never been calm. I've always been manic, or I just angry, frustrated, and it's really important to me to keep my nervous system regulated. And like, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is just go outside and just feel the air on my face, because need to remember that I am just a tiny small person on a massive planet, and life's not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's only complicated if I make it complicated.
The complications that come from outside, if you are striving to live a complication-free life, are quite easily pushed away, because you develop this mechanism of, no, it's too complicated, no, doesn't serve me, no, you're a bad influence, no, you're going to piss me off, no, you're a threat to my daughter, no. And you just make life simple. I think when you get sober, you design a life for yourself that is as simple as possible.
Yeah. And that's the difference why this time sobriety stuck and why sobriety never stuck in the past, because I was still chasing the chaos, just not in alcohol and drugs, but I was still living that chaotic life. And now it's like my mom messages me constantly, because I'm a massive introvert. I love being at home with my cats, painting, writing, doing my little bits and bobs, bobbing around the house. And she'll text me constantly going, are you all right? Do you want me to come over? Do you want some company? Do you want this? Do you want that? And I'm like, for fuck's sake, Mom, like, if I wanted company, I'd invite someone round, or I'd pop and see you, or this or that. I said, this is my happy place here. And she's just like, oh, I'm just making sure. She does that 2 years down the line, and bless her, it's Mom's for you, though. I'd be the same with my daughter.
So you've been sober for 2 years, is it?
Oh, it's reconnecting. Nearly, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And
so I don't talk about my clean time very often. Bit of the reason behind that is it can sometimes put off clients.
Yeah, right.
Because it seems a short amount of time, but the amount I've learned in that short amount of time has been unbelievable, really. And so I try not to let my clean time define it. It really helps some people really move forward and keep striving forward. But for me, it's just about how my existence is in my sobriety, not the amount of clean time I've got. And it's about how I feel. Do you know what I mean? Like, when this time around, I mean, I've done 6 months clean before, but this time when I was 6 months clean, I'd learned 50,000 times more than I ever did when I was 6 months clean before. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's the internal change for me more than how many numbers of days I've got.
Yeah, I mean, you can be sober for 7 years, do no internal work, and every day crave a drink. You might as well be drinking, because the internal turmoil mentally is just exhausting. But I was, after about somewhere between 2 and 3 years, I felt like, right, I am ready to attack life again. And if I had had the qualifications you'd had, I think I'd have felt comfortable explaining to people, this is how you do it. Because in those it's 2.5 years of studying, isn't it? Studying yourself, studying life, studying your brain, studying your own history and story. So I know what you mean. A lot of people say to me, oh, I liked your account at the beginning because I heard you were 10 years sober, so I believed it, So I understand that. But I still think if someone like Craig is very similar time to you, probably got sober at a similar time, when you're thriving, people see it and they feel it. So you will be inspiring to others,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to do your job in a great way. Well, how does your job and what you're doing now help your recovery?
I get a lot it's turning that pain into purpose, isn't it? So it's turning what my experience into something of value. So it's turning my pain into something of value for somebody else. And I go through this like lack of confidence thing all the time, where I feel I'm not being as professional as I should be, and all this, and I think, oh, I should be sticking by the rule book of how I've been taught and all this. But you know what works the most for like me and my clients is just pure honesty, teaching the correct DBT skills for the correct issues,
Mm-hmm.
and just not making it about the substances, making it about changing them as their mindset. What it does for me, it keeps re-implementing all those tools and tips and tricks and everything that I've learned.
Yeah.
They're constantly fresh in my brain because I'm talking about them every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, as well, when I talk to some clients and they talk about how they're feeling and stuff like that, I just think, oh, the pain it gives me, because I know I've been there and I can feel their pain. And I just think there is no way in a million years I could ever go back there. I'd rather kill myself before go back to that mental torture. I really would.
Yeah, the
And
right
that
amount of
sounds a
fear
bit
is
dramatic,
healthy.
but
No, it's not dramatic though. It sounds, your story is dark, isn't it? Especially when you throw crack and heroin into the equation. That's another level of mental torture. Reinforcing those ideas every single day. That's what I say about just quitting drinking: is daily practices every day. Repeat them like your life depends on them, and then one day you won't feel like you need to repeat them. You'll just repeat them because they're part of your
yeah,
energy, your routine, your everything. You become that, and you embody it in every action, every interaction, conversation. And I think it's just like that thing I say on my page: get to midnight, go again, until you don't need to.
love that.
Well, you don't have to say. I don't wake up in the morning and think, right, I need to get to midnight and then go again tomorrow. I don't think like that, because I've done it. I did it for 3 years, and then thereafter, the job's done. So it's how willing are you to put in the work? How important is your life to you? And it's a short period of time, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. Couple of years for you to really transform your life. It's worth digging in and doing it, because the payoff and
It
the
is. And that's the
longevity of
thing.
success is perfect.
You've got to look at the bigger picture. It's for me, it was probably about 8 months of a lot of pain. It's probably been the last 18 months or so where I've really felt proper contentment, you know what I mean? But those first 6 to 8 months were really, really hard. But what's come after them has been breathtakingly contentment. Like, it's just been, I can't even explain. I wish I could bottle up the feeling of peacefulness I feel today
Mm-hmm.
and give it out to people. And don't forget, I went from going into that rehab in Manchester. I was going to kill myself. I was ordering fentanyl to like literally take me over the edge because I'd had enough and I thought there was never a way out. And this is why I do put a lot of some of the darker stuff on Instagram, because I want people to realise you can go from that mental state to a mental state of peace and clarity, because that isn't you. That's just your mental state. People think it's just them as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Your mental being and your mental state isn't part of your values, your morals, your beliefs, your whatever. That is just the way your brain's working at the time. And you can go from that really dark place to the complete opposite if you do that work in between. And that work will be rough, but you can, if you knuckle down and do it right, you've got the most biggest reward you could wish for afterwards. You know what I mean? And
You've got the rest of your life to enjoy.
yeah,
And and
exactly.
I think when you're in a cycle of addiction, I think you're more worried about a life without that substance present than you are about any other element of life. Because when I first quit, I thought, I can't live without alcohol. It's impossible for me to exist without this. So when I got really early on, I thought, oh my God, I have to quit, but my life's going to be pitifully boring and depressing and empty and sad. And then suddenly, 4 months down the line, I'm thinking, I never want to touch another drink in my life. So how quickly are you able or willing to lose the pity party? And okay, my pity party it was just a self-indulgent, gross mess. I think yours, drinking at your age and experiencing trauma when you're that young, then I think you're more entitled to feel sorry for yourself and feel hard done by. But it's still a dangerous game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very dangerous. And I've got this massive thing where if you realize that you are responsible for your own healing, you can take back that control and fix it. Because I felt so out of control because all these things had been done to me and these things had happened that were out of my control, that I believed that that pain was how I should feel. But when I took back that control and realized that I didn't have to feel like that, that control really helped me. And it's like now I could never imagine putting a substance inside me and not know what I was doing and be mentally out of control. The thought of being drunk now and not having that, and I'm not saying I'm a control freak, I'm just saying it's that not having that level of self-awareness, I guess, would really scare me today. Really scare me. So
Well, it should scare you because it's scary, but when you start doing it
yeah,
young, it just becomes the norm, and you become more resilient to the abuse and the intoxication. So you just start to feel indestructible, don't you? Felt a bit like that as I got into recreational drugs. I was like, I could just take anything and get through it. But the pain underneath needs to be exposed, and it needs dealing with. What
yeah.
what? How do you see the future for you now? You've got the vision to buy a house. Things are good with your daughter. You've got your qualifications. What's the next step for you from even more fulfilling life? Because your story, like it's so. I love looking at your account. It's so glorious and happy. And well, no, it's not. Like you say, it's contentment, isn't it? Because when you're drinking and using, you want to be happy. But when you reach a point of sobriety where you understand you can't be happy, it's not really. It's fleeting, isn't it? It comes and goes. It's just the contentment and the serenity is where it's at. So, like, how do you want to build on that? Is it literally just chickens and courgettes and shit like that?
That would be my dream. But in regards to work wise, I want to get another couple of other coaches and that on board and start looking at doing more face-to-face events and stuff, because as much as I love my job, I hate the fact that it's all behind a computer screen. I would like it where I can do some work where it's more face-to-face. And yeah, and I was having this conversation with my sister about, like, well, don't you want a husband now? Don't you want this now? And I'm like, no. No, I don't. I'm so happy on my own, and I've dipped my toe back in the dating stuff and everything, and I'm just like, I think because I've had a life where I haven't been content by myself or I've been controlled by somebody else, I'm just going to enjoy this period of time on my own and sitting with myself and enjoying my own company. People think like, oh, well, you need to be married with 2 kids to have a happy life. I'm on my own and a single mom and I'm fucking buzzing. Like, it's fine. Like,
Yes.
and so I just want my house, my chickens, my goats, my land, and my continue helping people see where that takes me, see where that goes. And I kind of like not knowing what's in store and what's next, and just seeing where it goes and what happens.
Well, Olivia, to finish off, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time. It's some story. It's fascinating. I'm so glad you're happy and healthy now. I just got a few questions for you. Quick fire round. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Right. What's your favourite non-alcoholic drink?
Pepsi Max.
Pepsi Max, sugar. If you could interview anyone on the subject of addiction and alcoholism, who would it be?
Gabo Mate.
Oh yeah, I was talking about him yesterday. Why him?
Just a legend. I just love the way he speaks, his calmness, and how he explains things. And how he speaks about trauma and addiction. He's just amazing.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he? Next one. What's one guilty pleasure you won't do without?
Watch Only Fools and Horses on repeat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've got a tattoo of like a saying, and oh yeah. I've just been obsessed with them all my life. That's been my therapy. That was my therapy as a child. Only Fools and Horses was.
Like a little escape for you. Nice. And can you describe sobriety in one word for me, please?
Contentment.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Well, Olivia, thank you very much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure. Tell everyone, where can they find you?
So I am on Instagram at Sober Coaster Life, and yeah, follow us along for the mad and wonderful journey of sobriety.
I highly recommend you follow Olivia, everybody. Her account's adorable. And also it has the very brutal side of your past as well, you know, brutal images and story parts. So thank you for sharing everything and helping people. You're a legend. Well done.
Thank you, Gary. Really appreciate you having me on today.
No worries. Thanks very much, Olivia. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.